Welcome to Poor vs. Standard. I'm Poor, as always. All information in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and not financial advice, so don't sue us. Don't do it. So J-Pow talked, crashed the markets pretty well, and yeah, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, and I'm sure everyone here is feeling the pain. So, without further ado, let's get into it. What do you say? First things first. Yeah, we've got a couple things to talk about in the portfolio. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that there's some new stuff in there, there's some old stuff in there, but it's all down. And our current balance is roughly 16,000. Something you may not realize or see is that I paid off almost all margin because I'm that kind of guy. Yeah, I got some money, I put it in there and paid off the margin so that there's no margin debt because things could get very ugly from here. We're looking at bear market for the Russell, I believe. And S&P is the one that a lot of people follow, poor and standard, or you know, standard and poor, but that's not us. So, I mean, you can see things fall even further. And I don't see how. I mean, you got Tattooed Chef under $12. You've got Square at almost $100. Smile Direct Club's the only one standing firm in the middle to low $2 range. Palantir at under $13. Are you kidding me? I just I don't know. Then there's Corsair under 19, not just under 20. Coinbase was down to $1.65. I picked up another share there. I've got my average price point for Coinbase to like a jeez, where'd it go? Let's take a look there. Yeah, not much. Like 199. I got under $200 for my cost point average for Coinbase when I was buying them at like, two in the 220, 230 range, waiting for it to go back up. And right now we're $30 under that. So, well, $30 under 200 is where we were picking them up. Um, yeah, it's insane. I mean, the value you're gonna find on things like Coinbase, Tattooed Chef, Lemonade under 30 bucks. Thing was a $70 stock at least. Teledoc is another one that's gonna be huge gangbusters thing. Of Beyond Meat at 56 bucks. That was like $200 stock at one point. There's a lot of really deep discounts right now. I mean, Tesla at 850, I'll buy that all day. And I have in other accounts. But there's a lot of things that could go down further. And I don't want to put all my dry powder in the event they do. So I've been buying, 10 shares here, that 100 shares here, this, that, the other thing. Like Honest Company under $6. That's a Jeremy favorite. I see why. I went through some technicals on that. It's a newer company, but down here at these prices, this is basement level stuff. But again, these things could go lower because the technicals and the fundamentals don't have anything to do right now with the stock market. It's all out the window. People are losing their damn shit. Like I don't understand it. It's definitely concerning because if things get too bad, what's J-Pow gonna do? I mean, he's here for the economy, not the stock market. He doesn't give a shit about you or the stock market. He's said as much basically in his press conference. It's basically we've got to curb inflation. And by curbing inflation, that'll tend to tank the stock market. If they do a double rate hike instead of a 25 basis points, they go to a 50 basis point, that could change. We'll see what happens, and we'll see how many rate hikes we get and where that leads us. But in the meantime, those rate hikes are going to make money much harder for people to take because it's not free money anymore. It costs more to borrow that money. And so you're going to see it. That's the whole point of that is to slow spending. And when you slow spending, you basically, taking the economy from going on fire and cooling it off. And you go too far one way, and then you turn it into a recession because no one's spending any money. There's nothing that anyone wants to buy, nothing being made, and you lose a lot of momentum, which is sometimes necessary. We'll see. I mean, at 7% interest, yeah, you got to do something. 7% year over year, something's got to be done. And I understand that. And it's not as transitory as we thought. No one said it was going to be, other than, everyone for months and months on end, whether you listen to CNBC or the Fed or MSNBC or CNN or anyone that had a financial show, transitory, yada, yada, yada. Surprise, everyone's wrong. Didn't see that coming. Yes, so there are a lot of stocks that are a lot cheaper than where we bought them. I mean, if you look at the price of since opening, I've sold things, so we're down $10,400 right now, it says, from where we've opened all our positions. This portfolio is actually down even further than that because transparency and honesty, I've sold things at a loss and it no longer counts those there. So this portfolio is down quite a significant bit. And that's okay. It is what it is. Selling now doesn't make sense to me because they're down so much it doesn't matter. Like, I don't foresee any of these companies going bankrupt, and I don't think that they have much more room to the downside. At this point, we're getting close to max pain. And if we're not, the least we're going to do is see some of these things start to stabilize, maybe not go down 5 to 9% a day. And some of these are so wound with shorts that when it does finally turn the corner and start going back up, you're going to see an explosion of shorts you're going to see such an explosion to the upside so fast. It is going to rip faces off the same way that the downswing ripped faces off. There's going to be nowhere to hide for people who have shorted the stock market. It's just not going to happen because it's going to take them by surprise. It's going to come quick and they're not going to be able to get their orders in fast enough, and it's going to project things even higher for those who didn't. It's just wait, you're gonna see a like 60% gain before they, call it and say, whoa, slow down. It's gonna get nasty for certain people. And with that, we also have, you know, uh crypto. Crypto's been getting shit on too. I mean, Bitcoin was at 30, it got real close to the 20,000s. It's currently up at 38.5. And Ethereum, I want to say, got into like that 1900 range, real close to it. And Cardano dropped down below $1 for a moment there. Like these were the lows. These were the lows. Right now we're, I don't know, a little bit of an uptrend this Saturday. And it is Saturday, January 29th when I'm recording this. So just be aware. SHIB went down below the quad 02 to the quad 01. It's actually up into the back into the twos, and who knows. Um, Solana was, it's still sub 100, but it got down to the 80s. There's a bunch of them, man. Like there's a whole lot of cryptos that have been hit so hard. I think Mana's in the low twos, and that was over 350, $4. So everything's down from its highs and everything's coming back up from its lows. So, but it's not that far off the lows, and it could go back down. It really depends on what we see this week. And if last week's any indication, we could see more pain. It's entirely possible. The correction may not happen for another 30 days to the upside. It really depends on what market factors we're looking at, whether or not this Ukraine situation resolves itself, which it's looking like it may not. You're gonna see some shit. Like there are certain factors around globally that may make the stock market dip. We'll see. But yeah, that's the key parts of this. And I just wanted to, inform you all that I'm not selling. I'm not selling out. There's, talk of, I think it was me, Kevin sold all his positions, and when he did it, it made sense because there was more downside. He was right. There was a lot more downside on a lot of the stocks he was in. So selling those and creating a, a taxable event. Hopefully, he made more money than the taxable event is going to cost him. But he's buying back in now, slowly, little by little. I think he's like 55% invested. Um, but that's, millions of dollars and millions of, or at least hundreds of thousands of followers who follow these guys' every word. And they're saying, I sold out, or I'm not selling, but I'm not buying. I'm waiting for a further dip. And you have hundreds of thousands of people that hang on these people's words. And when they finally decide to say, okay, now, yeah, it's probably going to shoot up a little. There's a lot of money on the sidelines right now waiting, and that money's losing value too because of inflation. So you damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm glad I'm buying collectibles because those seem to be, okay. So that's just, I mean, there's a whole lot going on. And then another, guy from the Fed came out and basically said that we have to do what the economy dictates and we're going to hold to our word. He kind of reversed some of the things that we heard Jay Powell say. We'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens with CPI data, jobs data, and we'll report those numbers too. It's a very unusual time. Like, there's very few times that we're in an actual bear market. There's very few times where it gets so deep and doesn't correct for a very long time. Usually bear markets, it depends. It could be a couple months. It could be a year. I mean, 2008 was one of the longer bear markets from the crash and banks failing and the government bailing people out. Um, and everyone says that if they hadn't bailed out the banks, that we would have been in a much worse place than we are. And I don't know how true all of that is, but I'm not the person in charge of making all the decisions. I, I've made no decisions that bear any bearing on anyone else. But I wonder how we would have been if the taxpayers hadn't bailed everyone out. Some companies would have gone by the wayside, some banks would have gone by the wayside, but you wouldn't have had quantitative easing in such a way. If they never started quantitative easing, those who could would, and those who couldn't would have failed, rather than being propped up by a government that can't keep paying those bills. And now you have out of control inflation, joblessness because people aren't going back to work because the government's paying for it. I mean, you've got the setup for uh, basically socialism here, and it's not good. You want competition in markets, you want fair pricing, you want those things because competition will drive prices down. If you let everyone succeed, if they're a certain level or higher, there's no competition, and then those people can take all that money given from taxpayers to those companies to squash any new innovations or any new player to the game. Doesn't seem fair, doesn't seem right, but that's basically the kind of rule that we have right now is oligarchy of different companies who have enough money to squash small startups or buy them out and then squash the technology after they get it patented. It's not right, it's not okay, I don't like it. Nothing I can do about it. But it's very interesting that there's a lot of people that are not okay with how things are going right now. Um, it's a little bit underground. It's a little bit of a feeling that I'm getting that there's a lot of people who don't like to see what I'm seeing, but those who aren't vocal about it, I'm not going to call anyone out. They're not doing any harm, but they're also not doing any good by, sitting idly by and watching it happen. But you should know that your tax dollars, you should be asking your representatives to make sure that they're, spending the tax dollars that you pay in ways you want because there's a lot of bullshit going through the government right now. There was an amendment or a legislative, bill put forward to regulate crypto where it's basically just Janet Yellen's, whim saying, I feel like we don't need crypto. We're going to abolish it. No more. Like China, you can no longer mine, you can no longer have any crypto because I said so, because I fear it because I think it's going to weaken the dollar because Janet Yellen knows all and is all. No, that's wrong. It doesn't have to go to a committee. There's no like middle ground or no like, hey, we need to rate. There's a bill on the floor right now that could squash all of crypto. I think that's messed up. I'm hoping it doesn't pass because that is some absolute jackboot thuggery right there because they're so worried about a thing. Like, if that happens, maybe move to El Salvador where they, embrace technology, embrace the next wave. But I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what's going to do, but I do know that you should probably be calling and finding out what your congressman is doing to avoid total collapse of cryptos, to avoid total collapse. I'm not selling any cryptos. I don't think it's going to get that far. I think it's a fear tactic. I think it's trying to scare people into selling so that it can be consolidated and more, flushed out for the haves so that the have-nots still are have-nots at the end of the day. But all in all, I think diversity is key. Know what's happening with your government. Know where your money's going. Know what's being funded by your government. You should know that. There should be a ledger somewhere, or at least a congressman that's willing to tell you, like, here's everything that our state representatives have voted for. Here's everything that we want. Here's everything that I'm trying to do. Not just like this is my campaign slogan. Like, these are the issues that we voted on. Like, here's a referendum of all the bills we voted on this year. And here's how I voted. Which one of these involves things that you're interested in? That should be a thing that happens because transparency in your government is paramount for a citizenry to believe and trust in its government, and you're getting less and less of it. They are hiding things, whether it be studies, anything. I mean, we're so divided on just wearing a mask and not. Like, who cares? It's your personal choice. Do what the hell you want. My right to enforce things on you stops when it's your choice. And it's your choice to wear a mask. It's your choice to do what you want to do. It's your choice to do anything you want. There are repercussions for your actions. However, they're still your choice, and I cannot mandate that you make a choice. But that's not how everyone sees it, which boggles my mind. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And I'm not trying to be political at all. I'm just trying to figure out, where does all this lead? What happens when it's choices are taken out of your hand? You can't choose what stock you're going to pick because you're not allowed to be in the stock market without a certain, threshold or a cap on your money. So it's only for special elites and ridiculous people. Like, could that happen? Yeah, the way things are going, you're only allowed to do the things that the government says you're allowed to do. That's not freedom. That's not okay. But a lot of people are signing up for that way of life, and that's not something I'm willing to do. But we'll see how this plays out. We'll see what happens this week, and I'm going to try and keep you guys updated. I know I'm doing it like once every other week with these updates, but I knew that Jay Powell was going to speak this week, and I didn't want to talk before him and be wrong or just irrelevant with that video right after that. So this way, there's some time to watch it, and you can see what's going on. Um, yeah, so a bunch of stocks that are definitely cheap, cryptos that are cheaper. I'm waiting to see where they go. If they drop a little, I might buy some. We'll see. We'll see. But as always, thank you for watching. I'm poor. And as always, trade well, be safe.